All right. Accessibility and digital strategy. I did. It's down here though, so you didn't see it. So I'm probably going to walk around a little bit because I am, as I have mentioned many times to those of you who have been here for the last 2 minutes, caffeinated. Yeah. So this whole week, everything has gone well, but not to plan. So I'm hoping that this presentation is a little less interesting than that. Essentially, it can build accessibility and digital strategy is making it a priority. It's about talking about accessibility right from the beginning of a project. There we go. So who am I? I'm Donna Bungard. I'm a digital strategist over at MediaCurrent, which means where other parts of our company have to worry about functionality or the project as a whole in terms of numbers and scheduling and all these things, on the big picture and, well, frankly, on the end user the entire time. Our goal is to make this as easy for everybody throughout the process and to have the best results going forward. But who was I before that? Well, that was me with a really cool fake pearl pin. I was so happy about that when I can't tell you. Anyway, if you read a recent blog post of mine, I compared the girl of the Munsters. Why? Because in my household growing up, I was the only one without some sort of disability. My father had some mobility issues and is blinded in the eye. My mother had some debilitating physical issues that caused pain, which if anyone's ever lived with somebody with constant pain, it actually can sometimes act a little bit like a cognitive issue. And not to mention she had diabetic neuropathy, I can never say it, the blindness. And then my sister, who you'll hear me talk the most about, was hard of hearing. So I spent a lot of my childhood learning how to really enunciate when I speak so she could read my words. Myself yelling at the Christmas table about shrimp just as everybody else shut up. And it also was really cool because the old hearing aids used to have feedback, so I could go up behind her when she wasn't expecting it and play Jingle Bells. Yeah, I was that little sister. But my point is, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, that my whole soapbox is accessibility has to be just what we do. Growing up, I didn't make a point to enunciate to my sister. In truth, I apparently do this still without even knowing. She told me a few weeks ago, she's like, yeah, you still do this, this, and this, and this. It wasn't a matter of being the cool little sister. It wasn't a matter of being a dutiful daughter. It was a matter of trying to get through the day. It had to just be what I do. Communicate with the people in my family so that way we could have the most positive experience and, frankly, I could get what I want. So, but fast forward a whole lot of years. We won't talk about how many, and as mentioned, I'm a digital strategist over it was bound to happen. Digital strategist over at MediaCurrent. Now, who's MediaCurrent? We build really cool websites for people. And as I said, as a strategist, I'm worried about the end user a lot of the time. So we build really fantastic websites for end users that, and therefore, it's for our clients that are really meaningful. So, what are we going to talk about today? Or we, meaning me, because I'm, here. So we're going to be talking about what is accessibility, who's even affected, what are some guidelines and regulations, what even qualifies as a disability, how does this impact our work. We're going to talk about reaching that larger audience and we're going to try to make it a little more real to those of us who may not have to live with it or don't have as much exposure to it. Some examples in action. And then tools, stats, and information, because frankly, startup is great, but if you don't have the tools to help make it work for your team, I'm not really helping you. And then finally, coming back to empowerment. But, well, to come back to empowerment, so at MediaCurrent and as the Drupal community as a whole, we have this really cool community that empowers each other. We empower each other at these camps and at other things to be better at what we do. We empower each other to companies. In our companies, we end up empowering our clients to have these great websites, and therefore empowering the end user to have a fantastic experience. Accessibility is about empowerment. So who's affected? Okay, yeah, we all want to be great people. We all want to say we're nice, we're wonderful, we're thinking about everybody because we're those great people. But the fact is, business, and a lot of times we need numbers. We need to prove that this is a viable need out there. So who's affected? Well, about 53 million people. 2013 CDC report. Now, if you do a quick Google search on the population of California and that of New York, and you add those two things up, well, that pretty much is the same amount of people as are identified as having some sort of disability. So keeping that in mind, have you ever heard of a web development, a web development contract where somebody said, I don't want to hit, it's just too expensive to deal with that? Yes?
Oh, I answered it, I read it.
Oh.
I was wondering if it was US or world.
I'm sorry, that's adults in the United States only.
Yeah.
So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Strategists, project managers, even sales, you need numbers to make these things real. So, you know, more women than men have mobility issues. And though it doesn't show the number there for vision, that was pretty darn close too. It just didn't show less than 5%. By age, it's not really a shocker by any of our standards. We might have a few more issues as we get older. And then this is the slide that gets me. I hate this slide. The higher percentages, or the more likely you are to have a lower income, is directly impacted by your disability or lack thereof. It's saying that here are people who need the resources. Here's a group of us who need these resources and we're not providing them, and it's impacting other areas of their lives. But you know what, again, individuals, we are all nice people. But sometimes just even saying those numbers aren't enough. So since the start of 2015, more than 240 businesses have had suits filed against them for not being accessible. Excuse me, their websites not being accessible. If you saw the news the other day, it actually is going to a court and is making they're trying to set a precedent. And it looks like it's working. Most of these 240 have been either quietly taken care of, or in truth, I couldn't find specific details. The fact is, it's happening more and more. There are companies out there who go specifically looking, is this person 508 compliant, which is the equivalent of a AA rating. So, another note, as of March of 2018, most government I did warn you guys, too much coffee. Most government and educational institutions will have to be 508 compliant. If not, there's going to be issues. So the commercial world is getting hit in the legal department. The federal and the federally funded educational institutions are getting hit in the legal department. It's becoming something of a priority in that regard. Now, I don't care about political sides, whatever. I just happen to love this quote. Americans with disabilities are Americans first and foremost, and like all Americans are entitled not only to full participation in our society, but also full opportunity in our society. If your site isn't accessible, if you are providing a service, if you are providing anything, you're not reaching those people. If your site isn't accessible, you're not giving them the full opportunity. Now, Fortunately, this is the extent of my own issue. Well, at least the ones that you can see. No, but there's a lot of different levels out there. People think colorblind, they think black and white. That's not the case. Now, this is the media current team from a few years ago. I honestly don't know when. It was before me, so it really doesn't matter. But this is most of our group. When we talk about things, and we'll touch on them later, about high contrast. When we talk about things, that's how you perceive things. This is kind of why. You're not going to perceive these things the same way. I mean, look at the way the blue of the shirts and the blue of the jeans often blend together into the green there. Are you telling me if you have a blue and a green button near each other, that this person's gonna know which one it is? Or if you have too light of the text? You need to make your resources available. So, yeah, we're getting educated. That's cool. I'm going to try to see if this will play. Fingers and toes crossed here. I can't. Brian Charleston there did a presentation for us of using a screen reader. Now, I had never seen anybody use a screen reader before. That was a totally new thing for me. Slowed it down for us, and I still got physically dizzy to the point where I was sitting in the audience closing my eyes, and the guy next to me is going. I really wish I had 15 minutes before this piece, but they didn't record that. What it was is that they forgot, somebody forgot to set him up on Wi-Fi. And what do any of us do when we're presenting and we forget our no Wi-Fi? Well, we set the darn thing up. He was going through at his normal natural speed, not slowing it down for us sighted people who were trying to figure out what that thing was saying. And it was awe-inspiring because of my lack of exposure to it. So this is Brian going through, what was it, Bank of America website. And in this, you're going to be able to see the screen reader and see how the formatting of the headers, the alt tags, the link descriptions are going to play in. It's only a couple of minutes, so what time have we got? Oh, we have plenty of time. I'm talking way too fast. So we're going to play this through. I think if I can get my mouse over there. Hey, check that out. And where's my, there it is. I'll turn the closed captioning on.
It reads me something useful. And in fact, every page on the entire website has a unique name.
Did you guys hear that at all?
So I can't mistakenly think I'm where I'm not. Now, the next thing I might do on a page is to drop down by heading. I'm going to hit the H key.
Bank of America and credit cards, mortgages, and other loans heading level 1.
And what heading level was that?
1.
Heading level 1. How many heading level 1s ought to be on the page? 1. Thank you very much.
Heading level 2.
And that's heading level 2, right where it should be.
Open your own loan payments heading level 2. Popular links heading level 2. Your losing information heading level 2.
And every one of them is unique. No two of them are the same words. And can confuse me as I navigate through this.
New local banking heading level 3.
Now I got to a heading level 3. I'm back up.
Your losing information heading level 2.
News and information, so this 3 should be a subset of that 2.
New local banking heading level 3.
Is it?
Yes.
It is. It's good structure. Good structure. I'm going to go and back up to the top of my screen.
Bank of America and credit cards, mortgages, and other loans.
The next thing I want to know about our page is how it deals with graphics. I'm going to hit the G, which is my quick key for moving between graphics.
Bank of America graphic. Low annual fee on these Bank of America registered credit cards. Choose the cards that works for you. Graphic clickable.
And it told me another thing, didn't it? That that's a clickable graphic.
Transferring the commercial rate and roll out in graphic.
And everything that it's telling me is complete, enough for me to make a decision. Do I or don't I? All of the graphics throughout the entire website are done in that fashion.
Echo.
My next issue is the first couple of links on any page. I'm going to hit the tab key, which should simply take me forward a link, correct?
Skip the sign same page link.
Skip the sign-in page link. Skip links, hugely valuable to me, because this page has a lot of links on it. And if I go to any other page on here, there's going to be a lot of repetition. So having skip links is hugely valuable to me. Being tabbed.
Skip the main content same page link.
Or skip to main content. And it also tells me it's a same page link. Really useful to know so that I don't refresh the page, only to find out back where I started from. So useful, very, very useful and important.
Echo, there it is.
Next item that I concern myself when I look at the page is any forms. I'm going to hit F to move between form fields.
Search for edit. How can we help you?
Search term, edit. How can we help you? I've never had a bank teller freebie that.
Okay, and as a side piece, it's also a great example of why good captioning is important. I'm not sure what was ulcerated there, but I, for one, don't want to know on a bank website. All right, so is what qualifies as a disability and who's affected. Or I should say, more likely, is someone who does identify as having a disability the only ones affected? I swear I clicked. All right. So, officially speaking, disability describes functional limitations that affect one or more major life activities, including vision, cognitive, hearing, and mobility. Various laws will define it a little differently. Okay, great. We understand that that's 20% of the population. That's great, but who else is affected? Well, there's temporary disabilities. If I break my right hand, you better believe everybody in the world is going to hear about my physical issue because I won't be able to do anything. This is pretty much useless. It holds paper. Hits a space bar. If my children are yelling in the background, you know, I'm sure there's some amazingly important thing about Pokemon or dragons somewhere that will fry my brain and I will do something stupid. This is not a question. There are things in life that mimic these disabilities, whether it be something temporary and physical. As I mentioned earlier, my mother's issues with chronic pain, and sometimes when it was bad, the distraction and the exhaustion from it, it mimicked a cognitive thing. She just couldn't think straight. And trust me, the woman was in Mensa. But it showed that she just was distracted. There are things that someone who maybe doesn't identify as having that type of disability or being in that specific 20% of the US adults, as of however many years ago, 13 there, 2013, not 13 years ago. Yeah, each of us can benefit. So, yeah. Okay, if you've been to any of these strategy talks before, I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything particularly life-shattering, earth-changing, woo! But how we can approach it is where it comes in. And the approach comes from bringing it into the strategy, bringing it into the very start of our project. Waiting to the end, waiting to do an audit after it's done. You have on your team people who just built something, having to reevaluate. You have the client being hit up with a big chunk of hours. This is what it's going to take for us to audit. This is what it's going to take for us to change things. They've invested already. Why are they going to want to reinvest? By bringing it into strategy, starting the conversation, it doesn't have to be a hard conversation. It doesn't. It can just be another usability issue. I mean, think about it. I usually pull out my phone right now, but I packed it away so I wasn't going to be rude. Smart me. But think about it. We're already adapting to users with technologies. We are adapting to our phone. Can you imagine building a website that's not responsive? No, you can't. Why? Because you're going to lose a large percentage of people. If it's not mobile friendly, Google's not even going to talk to you anymore. We're already making it responsive, and it became a part of the conversation early in the process. Whether it be in the sales, the discovery of who you need to hit. Well, we need to make sure we hit everybody. We need to have Google like us. We need to do this. Okay, we need it responsive. The end. It's barely even discussed anymore. It's just what we do. By bringing accessibility issues into the discussion at the very beginning, just what we do. So, well, yeah, I just pretty much said that. That says something about, bringing it into the beginning and helping it carry through the entire process. All right, so audience research. When you're doing research, there's tons of data out there. You're doing interviews, you're doing user testing, you're doing all of this great stuff. So look at the statistics, look at the analytics, look at who their target market is, and is there a compelling argument to make this one of the goals? Is being an accessible website have enough backing from factual data to push it right in front of them saying, see, this is why it's important. KPI definition. Now that you've said it's important, is there enough to say that this isn't only important, this is one of our key performance indicators? It's, maybe it is because you're a higher ed institute and, well, guess what? 508, you need time between now and next March. There are lots of reasons you can make this one of the actual written goals and one part of the definition of success. And then I wouldn't be a good strategist if I didn't talk about SEO. A site that is SEO friendly is not necessarily accessible. However, an accessible site is a heck of a lot more SEO friendly. Now, specific analytics. There aren't any. There aren't analytics out there saying, well, this percentage of the population uses JAWS, this percentage uses voice reader, this percent uses AirPuff. I'm blanking. The AirPuff mouse thing, or other physical aids. Forgive me. We don't know the percentage of people who are using their captions. Back to my sister, trust me, captions are a beautiful thing. If not, everybody in a 3-mile radius knows when she's trying to watch something. It's, all right, maybe I'm exaggerating, but still, her entire place, everyone knows that she's watching something. Now, the reason there aren't any specific analytics, well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, assistive technologies don't track cookies like browsers do. There's no way for us to just grab that information. And the second thing is, that could be a security risk. That could be a privacy violation. Who are we to know? So we need to look out there at who we're targeting, who we're talking to, and then make sure to include them. Make it important. And there are lots of user testing options, and that is vital. Now, a couple of them, and I was really excited actually to hear earlier that they, one of the speakers I went to said that they had a Mass.gov Perkins School for the Blinds looking at their site. I thought that was awesome. But there's a couple of user testing options. Loop 11 specifies a 508 compliance option. Citeron, I thought it was really neat because not only are they actually asking end users with disabilities to check everything, but they do all the unique web pages. Now I know components-based, yada, yada, yada. Maybe we could debate the discussion of unique web pages or what have you, but the fact is they're checking the entire site. They're not looking at, hi, these are our 5 main landing pages, and then moving on, and then somebody's trying to download the form that they need, and they can't get to it. And then, as I mentioned, the Perkins School for the Blind. I just thought this was the vision of empowerment. That here you are, you have people who are not only learning and growing as individuals, but they're trying to make their world a better place. And I thought that was just fantastic because they're helping influence where we as an industry are going. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, a lot of people who are project managers or strategists aren't necessarily knowledgeable or really too comfortable talking too much about front-end design, which is where most of the legwork comes in. So here's a few talking points about inclusive design. For visual, you may want higher color contrast, better alt tags, of course the H tags for everybody. Video transcripts so that the readers, when they read them, don't get things like ulcerations when they're talking about websites. That just bugs me, sorry. Hearing considerations, again, the transcripts and the good captioning. For cognitive, don't autoplay or end a video and keep the volume low. I recently read something where they said if you're hitting an older generation that may have early onset dementia, that a loud volume that just plays on them can trigger disorientation. So not only are you creating a bad user experience, but you're creating this bad experience in general for this individual who's just trying to access your site. And then mobility, keeping your links well spaced. It's not up there, but I recently read this fantastic one where somebody said, wait, guys, it's great. They're big, they're well spaced, except they're so big when I try to scroll, I keep hitting your darn button. Good to know. I didn't zoom in myself. I hadn't, it wasn't one of our sites. It was an article about something else. But good to know, that's consideration now that I'm keeping in the back of my head. So, how do we apply this to strategy deliverables? Personas. This is an example of Howard. We're just in this particular case of just tossing that he used Chrome's color enhancer extension. There have been actual personas now that have gone out of Media Current that have a more extensive disability consideration or accessibility lens applied to it. Trying to make sure we recognize where that could come in. User lens. Here's a standard user lens we gave to a few of our clients. And in here we just kind of, not snuck in, but added in potential challenges. Anything from low contrast vision to ADHD or Parkinson's disease. And the truth of the matter is the desired online experience really isn't all that same in the old standard format. We simply just put the ability to understand meaning of the page from text markup, meaning your alt tags, your link descriptions and such. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not saying, okay, everybody, it's time, let's do this. This is our standard stuff. This is being incorporated. Why? Well, responsive is incorporated, that's usability. Why wouldn't this? And then, yeah, the growth strategy slide. We made sure making inclusive design a priority was included in our standard growth strategy design. Slide. Somebody, when I gave a similar talk, a trimmed down version of this at a meetup, said, but Donna, this is hard to talk about. It's not. It's right here in the same way we've talked about everything else. This can be just what we do. It doesn't have to be, hold on, get the horns out, jump on the table and scream about it. Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna make your site. We're gonna do the tree track. We're gonna test the navigation. We're gonna do We're going to have your personas. We're going to make sure that there's a lens in there for that. We're going to set your KPIs. Make sure we're including that 20% of people. We're going to just make sure it's, I already said responsive. Of course, I'm blanking on other usability things, but it's just a usability issue. You discuss it like any other usability issue. It's about reaching people. There's just simple changes, simple inclusions. So, I mentioned, let's say you're on board. You're great. Yeah, you go back to your teams and oh, good. So now what? Well, here's some things, and I'll be posting this. I'm assuming they're posting it here for download. Oh, hey, that wraps on that. Lovely. All right. So Wave tool has a great way of doing things, a great way of quickly taking a look at things. Now I'm going to just real quick say any automated accessibility testers are only going to get 20 to 30% of the issues. You really need a full manual audit. But if you're on the phone with somebody, or maybe you're just trying to find a way to make it seem important to that individual, pull these up. Look at it yourself. 13 errors. Okay. Take a quick look. Hey, guess what? They're all missing alt tags. They're all missing this. And by the way, when I say alt tags, I don't mean man in chair. Okay, yeah, I hear you laughing. You're picturing, you're wondering, is this, some businessman on his cell phone in a chair, or is this some guy in his, white tank top and boxers with a remote? Man in chair tells you nothing. Be descriptive. Tell a story. We're all communicators, whether you work in the back end and are setting up the environments, or if you're the front end creating the visuals, or the content authors and editors writing the piece. Telling a story. Tell the story. Statistic sources. Again, sometimes we need to back this up with more data. So we got the US Census, the CDC, which I quoted here a few times. Cornell University had a interesting way to pull up reports. Legal examples. I wasn't kidding about that. So yeah, I don't have Winn-Dixie up here yet. As I said, I just found out about that 2 days ago, and honestly, I hadn't touched this for 4 days, so hey. At Forbes, we've got Wall Street Journal, we got the University of Minnesota. There's not onion articles out here. This is actually happening. In code libraries, that same meetup I discussed how I said this trimmed down version. There's a developer in the room, and he's a very nice guy, and he's smiling a little and nodding. And I mentioned the Alley Style Guide, which is actually spearheaded by Carrie Fisher over at Media Current. Yeah, she's done an amazing, amazing work. And what that is, it's code libraries. So you're not telling your team, you need to do this. You're telling your team, here's a resource. And in that code library, there is, okay, this is the right way to make a button that is responsive and has this level of contrast, or this level of this, or has this cool rollover effect, but is still accessible. That is just one she showed the other day. She's actually, I don't know if that one's up yet. She has these great pictures of sloths. It's really cute. But the fact is, you're giving your team the resources. We're not just empowering end users, we're empowering each other, remember? Empowering your team with the resources that they need. And then ARIA examples. One thing I keep being reminded, because I don't use ARIA. ARIA, for those of you who don't know, is it's coding. Bad ARIA will screw up a site worse than no. When they're starting to use this, educates themselves and gets up to speed, because if you don't, when you're using assistive technologies, it's going to make it messy. So now what? Told you it would come back to empowerment. We're empowering our end users. We're going ahead. We're reaching that 20% of the US adult population, plus children, plus international, plus everybody. We're empowering those end users, and in doing so, they're doing more online, which empowers our clients. And our clients, kidding, they empower us, their projects, give us opportunities to learn and to grow and to continue to empower each other in our community. And because I think pop culture references are shiny, and if you get that one, extra points. Not the Bill and Ted, the shiny part. Be excellent to each other, because really it's about empowerment, and what's more excellent than that? Thank you, guys. Any questions? Oh, go ahead.
So, I'm trying to figure out, like, generally speaking, I can sell this to clients relatively frequently when they are open to it.
Yes.
What I'm wondering is how you can make change within a company to make it so that this is something that's thought about from the get-go. Because occasionally I'll be the first person who comes on a project who says, oh, no one read green colorblind can see that.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So that's kind of where I'm looking at, because it's actually been easier than I thought, but at the same time, it's still not something that, like,
resonates.
It's not something that resonates. I'm pretty sure I'm seen as bleeding heart at this point in my company. So how do you get around that?
Data. Do you do personas? Do you do that discovery phase of a project? Is that a part of your process?
It's more technical discovery. Some of the persona work occasionally bubbles up to me, but knowing that they might be people to talk to.
How about UX?
A little bit.
I would approach it from a UX, again, I'm a strategist, so it's kind of my gig. But I would approach it from both a UX and a discovery standpoint. Show the data. If they are, again, a government or federally funded institution.
Oh, those guys are easy. Those guys are day one.
I was going to say, they should all be saying, here, take my money at this point. Hey, who kidding? That's a client's be like, right? Yeah, but for the others, I would get the data. I would look at the personas. I would look at the, frankly, depending on how hard of a sell it is, look at the legal. Nobody wants to say, do this or get sued. I mean, I could just think of lots of hand gestures I've received. No, but what you might want to do is say, look, I'm letting you know this is a trend. It's my duty to let you know that this is happening. If you want to do it, and kind of just leave it out there as a big question mark, it might not happen right away. But what I'm seeing is that little by little, the more people are seeing it and pondering it, it's gonna rub a little salt in the wound. And then if you can get data about their personas, if you can get data about what they might be losing, those things, again, not to say you must do this or else, but yeah, hey buddy, you know, that pickup line's not gonna work. You need to do something better.
That we're running into is we definitely feel as a team that it's completely worth doing this, but it feels so big. We don't even know where to start.
Because I know a little about your team, they do really cool things for universities so the labs don't blow up, essentially. I would say start with the ARIA style guide I mentioned, and I can either text you the link or whatever. But I would start there and show your team that, and have them see that, hey, here is a huge stack of tools, and give them a little time to digest it. But maybe just pick, you know, let's in this next Wednesday release do these 2 things. Let that sit. Then the next, you know, just gradually incorporate code that's already written for you. You just have to style it. You're giving them the present. You don't have to do it all. It doesn't have to be big. You said something?
Yeah, that's kind of an implementation question.
Go for it.
So for the mass.gov website, we're using Atomic Design.
Yeah.
So we'll create patterns, put them into different places on the site.
Yes.
But one of the things that we keep coming up with bugs with is properly formatted HTML. So since this component was built with an H2, if it's put in the main content, that's correct. But if it's in the sidebar, it really needs to be an H3. We're running into issues of that nature. If you look at HTML5, it says that if you wrap it in a section tag,
It's
it
gonna.
doesn't matter. But it seems like the screen readers are ignoring that and just saying, oh, this has to be an H3. Not looking at the nesting.
It is. To be honest, I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I know who to ask about it. Before you leave, can you hit me up with your card and I'll ask her and email you next week? Okay, thank you.
So, say you go and look at the data and see, like, a lot of older people are visiting your website, so it
Yes.
makes sense to implement all the accessibility features.
Yeah.
You do that, but how do you make sure that they are helping the end user? How do you get
User testing. You need to do user testing, and truth be told, also keep an eye on your analytics. I'm not going to sit here and say your bounce rate will decrease.
Mhm.
But if I were to guess, if somebody's not having a problem on the site, they're going to spend a little time there.
Right.
But my biggest thing would just be user testing. And what?
Yeah, my apologies if you covered this already, but are any of your current clients looking at the recent litigation and wondering, like, how does this affect me?
Yep, I did briefly touch on it. I have, I'm not in a position where I would have that conversation with the clients I'm on at the time, to be honest with you. That would be someone else's role. However, I do know that ways to approach accessibility, including the legal side of it, have been discussed internally. I'm not entirely sure how it played out. I do know that we have discussed what I mentioned earlier is don't do the hard sell. You don't want to tell anybody or else. Do want to say, look at the trends. You need to at least acknowledge this. If you as the, as a client make the decision not to, I can't do anything. I'm here to support you regardless. But really, you're going to want to think about this and just reiterate it occasionally over time. Again, a little salt in the wound, but not. If you come off too strong, as you mentioned, you'll sound like a bleeding heart, and people tend to disregard that, even if you're valid.
There's certain sectors that are more exposed than others. I mean, government sector, websites,
Well, yeah.
universities that have to comply with this as opposed to other sectors that more likely to be a target for legal action. That's becomes a real fiber.
Well, you would think so, but then again, with Winn-Dixie, that might set a precedence moving forward. I don't know how to answer that, to be very honest. I mean, obviously, the 508 compliance is going to be required as of March of 18. So yes, the education and government are going to be your biggest followers at this point. But seeing how this all plays out and seeing the trends, there's obviously, like everything, there's going to be some some industries that are going to be more targeted than others. Am I running over time? I've got 3 more. Thank you. Is there anything else? Does that help?
How do you approach the content training side of this? Because we've definitely launched sites before where they're accessible on day one, and as soon as content gets in there, nope.
Yes. Well, something we have did a little bit of a pilot program with was putting together resources and proposed even going so far as giving a little content editors test, content author test, just a simple thing, but basically engage them. It can be a document. It doesn't have to be, again, everybody has to customize documentation for each client anyway. That's just part of life. But in that documentation, include some content authoring guide and have them, you've just got to educate them is basically what it is, because yeah, I've seen that happen too. Day 1, your site's perfect. Day 3, a bomb went off and everyone's wondering what happened. It's just a matter of education.
How do you go about finding user testers, like an audience that just, obviously, there's tools and everything in place, but kind of like, I don't want to alienate anybody by kind of searching them out. So, I mean, Perkins, for example, do they collaboratively work with institutions?
Yeah. Oh, these are all companies that collaboratively will work with you.
I can actually speak on the Perkins thing, because there's one of those we work with, they love being sought out for this. Like,
yeah.
This is like, they are so freaking happy about it.
Well, yeah, they want to make a positive influence in the world.
Even from site parent perspective, Mass Commission is always helped out.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
So
Thank
they're
you.
a really good resource. They don't charge. They're willing to work with you.
Mass Institute for the Blind, you said?
The Mass Institute for the Blind.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm just going to take a note after, because I'll forget it in half an hour, but I will write it down after. So.
Is it Mass Institute or commission? I didn't get commission.
I'm sorry?
Commission for the blind.
Max, thank you.
You can also work with user recruiters who then take the time to search out the people with the specific disabilities that you're looking to test with.
Is there anything else? Okay.
Do you have any suggestions for working with like visual designers and UX designers for like parts of the website that like aren't visual, like keyboard navigation and things like that, and sort of helping to afford that understanding? Like, any interactive that we create has to be like
I would think that would fall a little bit more to the front end side. I would think that was just like, I should say not on the front end, but the collaboration aspect of the front end design when there's that handoff process, or maybe even perhaps sooner than before the handoff process. The whole team in the process. I might be oversimplifying. Forgive me if I am.
no, it's the situation like you suddenly bring up things like that, and like it's looking down sales, and they're like very happy with the design. Just like I can't make this happen.
Whenever I have to make something like that, I think it's going to be difficult. I'm like, I love this. How do we make this do this, and this that I need to happen? And if you present it as they can help you make what they are proud of work, that's how I probably approach it. Either that or just baking cupcakes. All right, guys, I think I'm out of time. So thank you so much. Hey, if you guys have any feedback, I'm always open to it. So.